What is going up, guys? So I have finally decided to make some videos over some things that I like cooking, and a lot of people have been telling me that I should, so why not? I'll be posting on Facebook and to YouTube, so I'll be doing more introductions into what I'll be doing later on. So, alright, so like I said, I'm going to be going a little bit in a two-part way. Sorry about that. We got two pans heating up here. So I'll be making two things tonight, so you're getting a 2-for-1 deal. In this pot, add a little bit of olive oil. And in the skillet, I'm adding some olive oil. So what I'm going to be making is I'm going to be making a stovetop roast. Sorry about that. We're making a stovetop roast. We got to get our oils nice and hot. And we'll check back here in a second. So now we got to get our roast. And there she is. That's about half of one. We're actually going to be making two. Got to make sure I get this camera on right. Come on now. Now we got it over about a medium to high heat, and that's what you want to hear. You got oils nice and hot. Probably about a tablespoon of oil. And then here's roast number 2. And we're going to drop it in like that. Now a lot of people will probably criticize me because I did it towards me instead of away from me, but I didn't just drop it in there. I slowly put it in. So next we're going to add some salt and pepper to it. Just a little fresh ground salt and a little fresh ground pepper to each side. We're going to let it brown really nice. So while that's doing that, we're going to show you what the next thing we're going to start on. Alright, so our other pan is smoking nice and hot. So I'm going to start on what I'm making, kind of like a Cajun style sausage and lentil soup. So I'm going to take the lunch. And I'm going to start with the basic holy trinity, which is bell peppers, onions, and celery. Now I did add red bell peppers to this. Oh yeah. Now to me, I like the red bell peppers. That's just me though. You know, some people just say it's just there for color. It does add a little bit nicer flavor to it. And we're going to let this saute down for a little bit. About maybe 15-20 minutes. And let's check our roast. Roasted brown is really nice. Oh yeah, look at that. Now I want you to look at something. Check out the marbling in this bad boy. That thing just looks beautiful. It's going to have some really good flavor. It's going to add a lot of something to it, if you know what I mean. Now what we're going to add to these is a basic mirepoix, celery, onion, carrots. Going to also add some garlic and some other herbs. And we're going to go, and I'm going to try to take it step by step for you each way. And what we're going to do with this here, even though I'm using my pot, I'm going to throw this in my slow cooker. And we're going to just let it go high and slow for 4 hours. And of course a little salt and pepper ain't going to hurt these. One very particular thing that I want to add to the roast beef is one of my favorite cooks, actually Chef Gordon Ramsay, said no color, no flavor. So we're getting a good, nice sear on them, which is going to add us some really nice flavor to it. So our beef has been searing pretty well, along with our vegetables. So beef's good. We're going to pull it out, let it set aside, and I'm going to show you the next step of what we're going to do with this. And look at that, ladies and gentlemen. Still see the steam rolling already. Alright, now on to step number 2 for this. We're going to add our mirepoix in here and slowly saute it down. And as you can see, it's just celery, onion, and carrots. You usually want a 1 to 2 part, which is 1 part celery, 1 part carrot, 2 part onion. And it just adds that little extra something instead of just throwing it in with, you know, a lot of people like doing regular pot roast. That's perfectly fine. But this is just how I like it. So a lot of these recipes are very user-friendly. You can change it up a little bit. And let's take a look at this here. Woo, look at them peppers. Look at that onion. Yeah, it's about time to add some garlic to this. I've got to season it a little bit too. Alright, so let's add some garlic. Alright guys, So here we are now. We're about to add some garlic to this. So we're going to add about 3 tablespoons garlic. Now a few of you may be asking, why did I add the garlic now after the vegetables been cooked down? Well, that's so that the garlic doesn't burn and it puts off a really bitter flavor. I learned that the hard way once. So, and if y'all don't feel comfortable tossing the vegetables like this, that's perfectly fine. Use a spatula. You know, it's kind of very user friendly for this situation. So let's take a look at our mirepoix. Mirepoix sauteing very nicely. And again, I'm just using tongs because it's what's quick and available to me. You know, don't necessarily have to use it. Alright guys, so we got our andouille style sausage sliced up. Now if you notice, I'm not really showing what all I'm doing with this. You know, it's just basic dices and slices. If y'all have any questions about what it should look like, I'll do a video eventually. But right now, just for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and just cut through the general prep and just toss it on in there. Now this is going to add a nice little spice to ours for the soup. So maybe you won't have to add as much seasoning to it. So now let's take a look at this here. Woo. Look at that, look at that, look at that. Sauteing down just nice. Let's go ahead and add our roast back to it. Now yes, I am setting it straight on top of it. That way whenever we go to add our water and our beef bouillon, it'll cook into it, it'll cook down nice, and it'll help soften up those vegetables, and I'll show you what we're going to do with them vegetables later. Alright guys, our roast beef and vegetables are looking good. Now to this, I'm going to add 6 cups of just regular hot water. Hot water just helps it boil a little bit quicker. You know, you can use just straight cold water. Now a lot of people might be saying, that's submerged, you're going to boil that. Trust me, you're going to want that extra 2 cups. And to this, we are going to add about 1 tablespoon of oregano. And yes, I am shaking it in. Next, we're going to add 1 tablespoon of rosemary. No, I'm sorry. That's thyme. And finally, 1.5 teaspoons of rosemary. Now, the reason why I'm not going as crazy with the rosemary as I am the others, rosemary can have a very off-putting flavor that a lot of people may not like. You know, I do like rosemary, but I had a bunch of people cry to me one time that they don't care for it if it sticks. But now to this, we're gonna add 1.5 teaspoon thyme, 1.5 teaspoon of oregano, a lot of people are like, you're jumping back and forth, you're jumping back and forth. Don't worry, I will go through and list off the ingredients in the beginning of the video. Now, back to our roast beef. And trust me, if y'all are getting confused as much as I am, I'm right there with you. Maybe I should have reconsidered the 2 for 1. But, needed to be done. If I can get these bay leaves out. Come on. Alright, so now that I got my bay leaves out, we're going to add roughly 3. I'm going to add 2 and a couple of crushed. Now this is the part that's going to throw y'all off a little bit. Add a little bit of soy sauce. Trust me, it's good with it. Add about a teaspoon. Add a little bit more. That's about a teaspoon. And then next, we are going to add to this some kitchen bouquet, and approximately the same amount. Alright, good deal. Now we're going to add our 6 beef bouillon cubes if you're using the little square ones, but I'm using some that are a little bit bigger, so I'm going to have to add 3. But remember, if you're using the smaller ones, it's 1 cup to 1 cube. A little bit bigger ones, you're going to go 2 cups per cube. All right, good deal. Now, as you can see, the water's already starting to darken from the soy sauce and the kitchen bouquet. Beef stock is just going to make it a little bit darker and richer, and that's all we're doing. I'm going to put a lid on it, move it back to the back burner, turn your front off, and put it on about a low medium. And now back to our little meat and vegetable Cajun concoction here. We are going to add approximately 1 teaspoon of Creole seasoning. Alright, so we got the crock pot out. I'm going to add all this to our crock pot. I'm going to show you all the next step from here. Come on. Alright, so we got all that added in there. Next, we're going to add our water. Be about 6 cups of water. And again, this is also something that you're going to want to have a little extra on hand. And you go 6 bouillon cubes to give you that really good flavor. Alright, good deal. We got the 6 in there. So now I've made up a little flour and water slurry just to kind of help thicken up the soup a little bit. I don't want something that's on the heavy consistency of like a chowder or a bisque, anything like that. I just want it a little bit thicker than just broth. And I know the beans or the lentils are going to help that out a bit, but this is going to help it get to the consistency that I want. So let's go and have this in there. And you may not want this in there, but if you do, it's approximately about a 1/4 cup of flour to about a 1/2 cup of water. Basically, you want it just a little bit thinner than my pancake mix. And we're going to have to scoop that out. Alright, so that's about the color and the consistency that you're going to want for now. And you're going to put this on high for about 4 hours or low for 8 hours. And then whenever it comes closer to about an hour left on it, I'm going to show you what you're going to do with that. So let's put the lid on this bad boy. And then we're going to tell you what we're going to do about the roast. I had to turn the roast up just a little bit because it wasn't simmering like I wanted it to. But that's approximately what you want. You want just slight bubble action, just a little bit going on it. And you're going to want to do this on stovetop for about a minimum of an hour to about an hour and a half. It'll get you nice and tender roast. It'll make it nice and soft on you. You let it rest for 10 minutes before you go to cut it. It'll be perfect. You can cut it into nice big thick chunks and you don't have to chew on it. But if you want to go shorter time, a good hour. And you can shave it thin like good shaved roast beef. It's whatever you prefer. And that's something that you're going to find out a little bit about my videos, is that this is very much my interpretation of these recipes. Some of them are some that I've been taught. Some of them I've looked up on the web and used. Some of them I've looked up on the web and tweaked to the point that it's my own recipe. And there's some of them that I just do straight up off the dome, like this right here. Don't know if it's going to work or not. I made something similar to it before, but a completely different style of cuisine. And who knows? This could turn out really well. So we're going to come back to this whenever it gets a little bit closer. Both of them being done. Alright guys, so it has been about roughly an hour and a half. Roast beef picked up a little bit of a simmer, a little bit heavier simmer, which is perfectly fine. In the meantime, while I was waiting for that, I made some mashed potatoes. They just got done. Cajun style lentil soup. It's cooking nicely. So let's go ahead and start straining and get you rolling on the next part. Alright, so let's take a look at that roast beef. And big reveal. Whew. And it smells divine. Now a lot of y'all probably going to be saying, why didn't you add tomato paste or some type of tomato sauce? Well, I will make one similar to that just to see how it turns out. This is just the way that I've been shown for my whole life. This is kind of how I grew up on it. And my fan won't turn on because it got a little hot in the kitchen. So now we're going to come over here. Mashed potatoes are in my KitchenAid. And I'll show you this here in a second. We got to get that roast out. So we got one beautiful succulent roast. Remember me saying tender? Look at that. Just the weight of it. Oh, make you want to smack somebody. If you're a wrestling fan, do a DDT or sweet chin music on somebody. Now, number 2. See if it falls apart. Oh my goodness. And just look at the steam roll. Now we're going to let this sit a little bit over on our cutting board. Going to let it rest for about 10 minutes. We're going to come back to this here in a minute. Now we're going to make some mashed potatoes. Oh yeah. Alright, so now that we're at our potato station, I'm going to turn this on just a general mix. And this will help mash up and mix up my potatoes at the same time. And while it's going, I'm going to go ahead and add my butter, or margarine as some people call it. And that's probably about 1 tablespoon. About 2, 3. And about 4 pound 6. Now some people may say, you know, I don't like margarine, I like butter. Well, you can like butter. Want to add butter to it? By all means. I will say this much though. Whenever you go to add butter, you want to have it room temperature soft. Otherwise, it's going to be beating it around. Now, you can also use even though I'm using this, you can go old school and use the hand smasher and turn around and use the mixer to whip it. It's whatever you prefer. So to this, we're going to add about 1/4 teaspoon of garlic. Granulated garlic. Just give it a little flavor. Now, you may not be a garlic fan. You may not like garlic. So, leave that out. So, we're also going to add, those potatoes smell wonderful. Add about 1/2 teaspoon of chives. That just gives it a nice little floral. I don't know if I can get my shaker in. I'm going to shake it like crazy. Shake it like a salt shaker. That's just going to add a nice little floral to it. For this next part, I'm going to try and balance my phone. Hopefully it don't fall off. And mix it in my salt and pepper. You know what? If I got a bad feeling about this, we're going to come back after the salt and pepper. Alright, so since adding our salt and pepper, I also scraped the bowl just a little bit to help make sure things are incorporated. Add about 1 teaspoon to 1 teaspoon of each. So next, we're going to add some milk. Now some people may add heavy cream to it or some cream. You know, it's whatever you prefer. And you just want this to where it softens the potatoes up enough but still makes them nice and creamy. So, kind of depends on you. But at the same token, be careful. As one of my old culinary friends used to say, you can always add to it, but you can never take away. So you want nice fluffy potatoes, but you don't want potato soup. Alright, so our potatoes been mixing pretty well. We got some nice and fluffy potatoes. Let's go ahead and turn this off, flip it up, and let's take a look, see what we got. Oh yeah, let's take a look at this. And most people think whenever they hear garlic and chives, it's a little bit of fancier style. I came up with this recipe while I was working as a kitchen manager. It was a way to kind of help stretch, and yeah, we were using instant potatoes. Because at the time, it was actually cheaper to go instant than go regular. But at the same token, I'd be the one that had to peel, dice, and mash all those potatoes. Oh, a little bit of that, gotta try it. Oh yeah. Alright guys, so back over here, back to our stock essentially. I'm going to scrape out all the vegetables. We're going to put it in a food processor and we're going to process it all down to where it goes back into the stock. So it kind of adds a nice little thickener to it. And also cuts down on your regular thickeners like starch and cornmeal or flour, even roux. So essentially you're making it a little bit healthier pan sauce or gravy, whichever you prefer to call it. Me, I'm calling it gravy. Same token, I'm educated calling it pan sauce. So whatever you prefer. And try to remember to remove your bay leaves. That's why you count how many you put in there. And you remember to count how many you pull out. So I'm going to finish up on this. I'm going to put it through the food processor. And then we'll come back to it. Alright guys, so something I did is after I'd strained it off all and put it in the food processor, I had a couple of scoops of flour and a couple of scoops of liquid off of my broth. Kind of help mix it up and make my slurry. So we're going to see if this works or not. Worst case scenario, I have a big clob of vegetable puree. Oh well, let's go for it. Alright, so I just got done running the vegetable puree. Let's see what we got. Woo. Nice, good vegetable slurry puree. We're going to turn our fire back on. Get our water boiling, and we're going to mix that in there and get it nice and thick. Remember, we're going for a little bit more natural of a thickener. Yes, I did add a little bit of flour, but not as much as you would add if you needed to thicken it up as much as you would before. Alright guys, so I added back in there. I got my fire starting to roll up a little bit. So we're going to let it simmer for a little bit. Try to get it up to a boil, just let it thicken it up a little bit. Make a nice good sauce. I might have to come back in and add a little bit more slurry to it, but maybe not a whole lot. We're just gonna see. But as you can see, it didn't change the color. You still got that really nice dark and rich color going in there. And yeah, there are still some vegetables in there. That's gonna happen. The only way you could change that is if you flipped it over into a bowl with a colander in it to strain it all out completely. But it's still a really good pan sauce. So let's give it some time, let it thicken, and then we're gonna slice up the beef and see what we got. Oh my goodness, take a look at that. And it just pours so smooth. Now I did have to add a little extra thickening to it, a little bit more flour and water. So let's take a look at it. You can just see the steam rolling off of it. I just turned the heat off. Take a look at that. Now, here's something that looks divine. Again, nice and tender. Like I said, you can cut this into some big chunks. Now watch this. Watch this. Should just pull apart easily. Let it rest. There's not a whole lot of juice on the board. This, ladies and gentlemen, is some good stovetop roast. So we about to get into this. I'll get back with you later with the lentils. We're about to finish up here. See y'all later. So I know I said I'd be back later on this here soup, but I had to check it out and it smells divine. We're going to go ahead and add our lentils to this, and we're going to go ahead and let it cook for another hour. Now what I'm kind of going for here is like a gumbo, but replacing the rice with lentils, and that's what it honestly smells like. And whenever you're cooking lentils, don't be afraid. Just read the instructions on how to do it. It says about 2 cups of lentils for about 6 to 8 cups of water. We got about 6 cups of water in here. And I didn't buy any no special lentils. They're just basic, great value from Walmart. So we're going to mix this in here, put the lid back on it, check it in about an hour. It should be good and done. We're going to try it out. Smells delicious. Cooking all kinds of crazy stuff up in here. Alright guys, let's take a look at our lentil and Cajun style sausage soup. So we got going. Ooh-wee. Smells like some good gumbo going on up in here. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Promise you for the first episode of 2-for-1 deal, I delivered it to you. Don't expect it to happen too much because that was a bit of a workout. But thank you for watching. Keep tuning in. I'm going to have some special things for y'all coming up. This is just the beginning. I'll at you later.